night now, sweetie.
No, Granny, I don't want to go to sleep yet.
How I tell you a story, then will you go to sleep?
Okay, tell me the story of when you were young again, the one with you and Rosie.
Again?
Yes, Granny, that's my favorite, you know.
Alright. It was December 8th, 1941, the day after Pearl Harbor was attacked by Japan. At that time, I was working as a maid on the east side. Because of the Depression, you couldn't only rely on your grandfather's money. My salary was $150 for the entire week, no days off. Before the war, the government had mainly given jobs to men. There was a lot of discrimination against women during that time. It took me a long time to find a job at the Smith's home. I was one of the luckier ones who even found a job. Men worked in manufacturing and other better paid jobs. Us women did clinical work or other jobs that were down the ladder. As prospects of war became more likely, the government wanted to increase the amount of food grown. In order to grow more food, the Women's Land Army was created. I remember my neighbor's friend was a part of it. The Land Army looked after animals, dug up the potatoes, and harvested the crops. We worked about 48 hours a week in the winter and about 50 hours a week in the summer. The war had brought tremendous change to everyone's lives. Even before the U.S. entered the war, some companies had already had contracts with the government to produce war equipment for the Allies. After the U.S. had officially entered the war products had to increase dramatically in a short amount of time, and all these factories needed workers. At first, the idea of hiring women was not taken seriously. As men left for war, women were needed to fill in empty holes they left. Before I knew it, even your grandfather was called. Because of the high employment during the Depression, most people were against women working, for they thought of it as women taking the jobs of unemployed men. But in the end, it was agreed that industries were in desperate need of workers and that women working in factories were only temporary. Women were called up for work from March 1941. Only single women aged 20 and 30 were called up at first, but by the mid-1943s, almost 90% of single women and 80% of married women had joined the working forces. Either it was on land or armed forces. So not satisfied with the women's response to the call of work, so they created the fictional character Rosie the Riveter as the ideal working woman who was loyal, sufficient, patriotic, and pretty. In 1942, the song Rosie the Riveter became a hit. A few months later, after the Rockwell speech stood up, the most famous picture of Rosie appeared in the government's commissioned poster, saying, "We can do it!" Oh, this got us going all right. You know, Aunt Lucy joined the workforce after she saw that picture. Oh, really? Yep, that's right. After a while, I quit my job at the Smith's home too. They were kind of disappointed, but hey, I thought it was what happened your grandfather wanted too. At first, I was quite nervous, but I kept telling myself, I could do it. I know I could. I know I can. Just like what Rosie said. And I came to find myself with a bunch of other women who had come to join the workforce too. Women were given a new opportunity to switch from the lower paying traditional women jobs to higher paying factory jobs. But even more women were needed. Companies started to even recruit married women, even though no one wanted them to work. There was no other choice. It was also harder to recruit married women because even if the woman wanted to, most of the time the husband didn't. Later on, the demands of labor got so high that even women with children under 6 were recruited. Like men, women were not satisfied with their jobs. They could quit. Like men, women suffer from taking the double shift, where they had to both work and take care of their house. And of course their children. So you see, it wasn't so easy for women just to go into the workforce just like that. Working mothers had childcare problems, and the public sometimes blamed them for the juvenile delinquency, even though 90% of mothers stayed at home. When I first entered the war, 1/4 of the workforce was women, and by the end of World War II, 1/3 of the workforce was women. 3 million women working in war plants, but the majority of women who worked during World War II worked in traditional female jobs such as the service selector. The only area that was a true mixture of both sexes was in the semi-skilled and the unskilled blue-collar workforce in factories. At first, companies thought women's desires and needs secondary to men. They weren't given much attention or weren't taken as seriously. But as time went by, more and more women joined, and the attitude towards women slowly began to change. Most women saved the money they earned. Women workers were always reminded to buy war bonds. And a huge numbers of women also involved themselves, and many joined the armed forces even though they weren't required to. 640 in the armed forces, 55 serving with guns and providing essential air defense, 80,000 in the land army, plus there were many more who flew unarmed aircraft, drove ambulances, and worked as nurses and worked behind enemy lines in the European resistance.
Gee whiz, Granny.
Night now, sweetie.
Aww. All right. Good night, Granny.
Good night, my little angel.